Okay, so this story is honestly one of the most insane things in the world. And I'll be honest, to all the people first off saying that, oh, like this guy probably just tells stories and like it's obviously fake, like he's never even touched a girl. Well, for you guys for clicking on this video and actually taking time out of your day to click on this video, here's exclusive footage of me making out with a chick at a party. Yeah, that was me. And you know, funny enough, I understand that, like, you know, like I'm maybe not the most attractive, or maybe I'm not the most outstanding, and yes, I over dramatic a lot of things when I tell these stories, but I'm gonna be realistic here, guys. I was a lady slayer, and you guys can ask anyone that actually knew me back in high school. Like, as cringy as it is me saying that out loud, I did do what I did back in high school, and I was one of a kind. But going on from there, let's get straight into this one of a kind story. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name is Bubba, and welcome back to another crazy story. So obviously, first thing I want to mention is that this story was back in high school. Back in high school, this was, I think, my grade 10 going on to 11th year, when I was really in the mood to always do the devil's tango. And it got to the point where I was willing to be a home wrecker, which you guys will see in the story how much of a home wrecker I was. But I'm gonna be honest, it was kind of like a two-part play, but we're just gonna try to make the best of this. So I remember back when I was in high school, I remember that I worked at this fast food restaurant. Now, this fast food restaurant was just the average fast food restaurant. Like, think of the most basic fast food restaurant and then put me in it. There you go. That's the gist of it. And I remember I always had like the most basic shifts. Like right after high school, I would go work for 4 hours and then come back home and play video games all night. Funny enough, I would record videos back when I was in high school, which you guys will see in the future videos. But going on though, I remember it was heading for spring break and I wanted to work more because I wanted to make more money so I could buy more video games. That was mostly like the gist with me. If I wasn't going out hanging out with a girl, I'd probably just go home and play video games with my boys. That's mostly the gist of what would always be happening. And I remember one time specifically, I remember it was coming up to spring break and I wanted to change my schedule. So what I decided to do is I went up to my manager. I was like, hey, like I was wondering, bro, if I could like switch my schedule up. And I'm not gonna lie, my manager wasn't the most attractive guy in the world. Now, you guys are probably saying, why are you telling us about how attractive your manager is? You guys will understand during the story, but just hear me out. This guy was 5 foot, nothing special really, and really nothing going on for his life. Personality was, it was all right. Pretty lazy, if you would ask me. And he was a manager. I don't know how. And he was just the average guy. Okay, I'm gonna just say that much. Now, I'm not saying I'm not the average guy, but like, you guys understand what I mean? Like, actually, okay, you know what? I think you guys understand. If you guys don't, then I'll break it down in another story time. But going on, I remember I went up to my manager. I was like, hey, like, I was wondering if I could change my schedule because I want to work more. And when I said work more, obviously his eyes glue up and he was like, oh yeah, like for sure, man. Like we can get that going for you, man. So that's what we ended up doing. We ended up going to the back room, you know, making sure I got everything written out for me to extend my schedule. And I realized that I was ending up doing graveyard shifts. Now, graveyard shifts aren't the best. I think I've done graveyard shifts before in the previous story about when I did it with my manager back when I worked at a grocery store. But this was before the grocery store. So obviously like this was my first time ever doing graveyard shifts ever. And I remember my manager ended up looking at me saying, oh, you're doing graveyard shifts. That's perfect. You get to meet my girlfriend. And in my head, I'm thinking, your girlfriend works here? And that's kind of weird when your manager is your own like relationship with your manager. I don't know. It's weird. But going on though, he told me about his girlfriend. He said like she's outstanding and stuff. And to be honest, I didn't really put any thought to it because when he first started talking about his girlfriend, I thought it was just going to be some girl that was unattractive, older, and just really out of pocket. Like, you know, just not worth looking at. And I'm like, oh yeah, great. You know, I made a joke of it at first because like I didn't take him seriously. Then a week went by and I remember I went to my first graveyard shift. Now, when I first got there, obviously like no one was there. It was just me because I came up half an hour early, which was really dumb. It's a graveyard shift. Like who's really going to be there that late? But anyways, I got there early and I ended up sitting down. I got in uniform and I sat down on the break room couch. And I remember as I was sitting there, I was waiting for other people to come by and stuff. And I remember there was this one outstanding hot blonde chick. Oh my God. She walked right past through the door. And I was looking at her. I'm like, holy cow. Like she was outstanding. Like I'm not joking when I say this. She had like blonde hair, blue eyes, outstanding, amazing cherries. Like it was like Christmas in July. Like I'm not joking. If someone put that present under the tree, oh my goodness, I would cry as much as I cried for my Xbox 360 back when I was a kid. But going on, I remember I saw that and I was like, holy, like this girl's outstanding. And she sat down beside me. I'm like, hey, like how you doing? Like what's going on? And I told her basically a bit about myself. We were talking it up a little bit. She told me like, oh, like yeah, like I do a lot of graveyard shifts. It's pretty cool here. You'll get used to it. And she's giving me like the rundown, you know, and I was hoping like, you know, she would basically train me in a sense because I was like, you know, it's my first time doing graveyard shifts. Woohoo. But then she told me, you don't need training. It's the same as the daytime. It's just night. It doesn't matter. It's just not as busy. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's great. Yeah, you know, kind of awkward. I'm not gonna lie, but you know, going on. And I remember I'm like, oh, like, can I like get your snap? Like, you know, like I was wondering if I can like get your Snapchat just in case, you know, any work reasons and stuff. And then she's like, yeah, I mean, you can get my snap and I can also give you my number if that helps too. Cause you know, it's more direct. night, if you know what I mean. And I'm like, oh yeah, that too. Yeah, for sure. I don't know. I was being really awkward. I remember myself being really awkward, kind of just being, well, like I said, like 100 times already, awkward. But then after that, I remember my manager walked into the room, and when my manager walked into the room, I remember seeing this girl stand up and running to his arms and literally kissing my manager. What? Are you joking? He was serious about this girl being a 10 out of 10? Like, I was shocked, okay? Like, I was like, whoa, there's no way my manager that's 5 foot, has really nothing going for him, and is a manager of a fast food restaurant, ended up getting a 10 out of 10 girl, blonde hair, blue eyes, and amazing cherries. Like, what? Like, what? Did the world just break on me? Like, I was so confused. And I remember my manager was like looking at me like, yeah, like, this is my girl. Like, look at that. And I remember I looked at him like, okay, I see how it is. Okay. I don't know why. I envied it. This girl was so attractive. I was like, holy. But anyways, I remember my manager wasn't really around when me and her started working together. We worked a lot together, and honestly, she was outstanding, and I got to know her more. And to be honest, she had a lot going for her than my manager, to be honest. I don't know. It still made me question a lot of things. But going on, I remember I asked her like basically about like, you know, how you guys got together and stuff like that. And she told me, oh, like, well, I saw him here and he was always so sweet to me and let me do whatever I want. And he was really flexible with my schedule. And I ended up just falling in love with him. What? You're telling me all it takes is to change your schedule a bit and you got the girl? Like, damn, I should own a business. Anyways, I was just really confused and stuff. And I remember, you know, I basically like, you know, talked to her about me and stuff, talked about me playing video games. She had an interest in video games as well. We talked about cars. We talked about many things together. To be honest, like even after our shifts, when it was like 6 a.m. and we went home, I remember like I drove her home one time because my manager doesn't drive. And I drove her home and I was like, you know, just talking to her and stuff like that. She was very interested in my silica for some reason. If you guys don't know, I had a 2001 silica. She loved it. And I remember she thanked me for the ride. And when she exited my vehicle, I'm not joking when I say this, she literally turned her head around and winked at me. Now, this is when I knew there is no way I'm not going to get with this girl. So I remember I went home and, you know, me and her started snapping back and forth. And I kind of talked her up and stuff and said, oh, like, I mean, you're cute and stuff like that. Like, I flirted with her. Like, I flirted, ladies and gentlemen. I literally flirted with her. And I knew she was with my manager, which was kind of mean of me to do morally. But honestly, at this point in time, I didn't care. She was hot. Okay. She was hot. And after that, I want to say the next shift we had together, like the day after, I ended up like seeing her at work and stuff like that. And my manager wasn't there. For some reason, my manager wasn't working at that day. And we were confused because we had no manager. It was just me, her, and like one other guy in the kitchen. And I remember me and her, we basically had like the whole place to ourselves. We were just working, hanging out, doing our own thing. And then I remember we both decided to take a break together. We went to the back. We ended up taking a break. We sat on the couch and I literally remember we kind of like got close and we were talking about, you know, just something personal I think that happened to her life. And then we ended up making out. We made out in the back of the fast food restaurant. It was so funny. I remember I was kind of laughing in my head. I'm like, oh my goodness, dude, there's no way this is happening right now. And I remember after our shift ended, I ended up driving her home. And yes, we did end up doing the devil's tango. And yes, I was fully aware that she was dating someone. And, you know, long story short, I'm gonna be honest, when she was telling me that personal thing, it was mostly that personal thing that was saying like how she wasn't interested in him anymore. And I kind of got the slide in there. I don't know. I thought it was my cue to basically dive in there. But going on though, we ended up doing the devil's tango. And, you know, I thought everything was okay. The next day happened. Me and her still flirt with each other and stuff, except my manager showed up that day. And I remember he looked at me pissed. And I was questioning, like, why would he be pissed off? Like, what's going on here? I remember he called me to the back room into his office. We went inside the office. He looked at me and he said to me, and I'm not joking when I say this, he literally said, why'd you do it, man? Like, why'd you do it? And I look at him, I'm like, what do you mean? Did what? And he pulls up security cameras. He pulled up a literal video recording of me making out with his girlfriend in the back room. And he looks at me, he's like, you did this? Are you serious? Like, what do you think you are? Like, literally making out with my girl. And I look at the security camera footage and I'm like, dude, she pulled on to me first. That's one thing I first realized. And then after that, he started yelling at me more and more. And I remember, like, as he was yelling at me, like, I was just kind of just sitting there like, holy cow, like, that footage looks really good of me making out with this girl. Like, damn. Kind of rude of me to think, but honestly, what happens, right? You can't argue with it. And I remember he said, like, since this is like a personal thing, I'm gonna deal with you later. I was kind of confused on what he meant by that. But then after that, after a while, I want to say our shift ended and his girlfriend was so confused on what was going on. Like, she kept asking me throughout the day, like, why was he yelling at you? Why was he yelling at you? What happened? Are you serious? Like, what's going on? And I'm like, don't worry about it. Anyways, the shift ended for all three of us. We went to the back room and we all started talking. What ended up happening is basically they broke up in front of me. And yeah, the girl kind of got pissed at me because she didn't expect there to be a camera in the break room. And yeah, that's basically the gist of it. Honestly, to this day, I remember that, like, I want to say like 2 weeks later, I got like, not let go, but I didn't have a good reputation there. And the girl I worked with, well, I wasn't allowed to work graveyard shifts with her anymore. Yeah, kind of awkward. I mean, me and her didn't talk as much anymore because she was really like, you know, she felt ashamed shamed, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, other than that, that's basically it.
Now, I understand that mix-ups happen, especially during the workplace, but this mix-up that my boss did, honestly, I think was on purpose. I don't know why, but let's just say things got really awkward to the point where I had to get fired. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba, and welcome back to another crazy but also super embarrassing story. So today's story all takes place back when I was actually just graduating high school. That's right, I was 18, turning 19, and honestly, life was really all over the place for me. I didn't know if I wanted to be a YouTuber. I didn't know if I wanted to be a content creator. I didn't know if I even wanted to be a streamer. But one thing was for sure was that those things weren't paying the bills at the time, so I ended up doing something else, which was a basic job that most people have nowadays. Now, I'm not hating on people that have a regular job. If anything, having a job shows you responsibility and also shows that you're independent. But let's just say I ended up getting this one job that was way more weirder than I thought it was. You see, back when I was 19, I was still living at my parents' place, and I wanted to figure out a cool way to make money quick. So instead of making videos, I thought, hey, why don't I, go and get a job in sales? Because at the time, I ended up watching this movie called Wolf of Wall Street, where it was about a guy who basically made sales and I guess was a big thing in the stock market. I don't know. If you guys never seen the movie, watch it. It's actually really inspiring. Other than the really weird stuff with Margaret Robbie, but she's hot, so it's totally okay. But I remember I ended up basically watching that movie and I got inspired to get into sales. So I ended up calling up one of my friends that was in sales and I told him, yo, bro, I was just wondering, like, does your job have like a job opening at all for me to like, get into? Yeah, man. Why? You trying to be in sales? Yeah, like I seen like you bought a new car recently and stuff, and I'm just trying to get more money in my pocket. Okay. Yeah, here, I can set up a meeting with my manager if you want. Yeah, sure, that'd be awesome. And from there, I remember literally the next week after, I got ready for my first job interview being in sales. I remember I got my suit and tie on and I ended up going to this job place. And when I did, I remember I ended up walking in there and I said, hi, I'm here for the job interview. Oh, you must be Bubba. Yeah, I'm looking for the boss. Oh, the boss is me. You're the manager? At this moment, I was shocked. And the reason I was shocked is because not because women can't be bosses, but at the same time, this woman looked basically like my age, except she was a bit older and she was super attractive. Like her cherries were bigger than Saturn. If you guys don't know what that means, then you know what? Don't worry about it. But I remember I saw this and I'm like, whoa, like she looks great. She's hot. You know what? I think this job interview is going to be super easy because I had a plan to basically flirt with her to make her hire me. It's kind of a weird way of doing things, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, if they like you and you like them, automatically you get benefit. Am I right or am I right? So I remember we started doing this job interview. She asked me questions, I answer, the basic stuff. But then she ends up making a comment saying, oh, so I have a question. Do you like naturally know how to wear a suit and tie, or are you just doing that for today? Oh no, I wear suits all the time. My dad's into old fashioned, so am I. He kind of raised us as an old fashioned family. Oh, that's really awesome. Oh my goodness, that's really attractive actually. I mean, not as attractive as you, but yeah, I could see it happening. I remember when I made that comment, her eyes went wide open and she was actually like blushing. At that moment, I knew I was definitely in. And right away, as I was about to leave my job interview, she ends up standing up as well saying, oh, Bubba, before you leave, I just want to let you know you're definitely hired. Sweet. When do I start? Well, that's the thing. I need you to book a ticket. A ticket? For what? Oh, well, we're going to Vegas and I basically have like a business meeting down there, but I need an assistant. It will pay good if you want to go. Yeah, I can go. At this moment, I was in major shock because not only did I get the job, but I had a trip to Vegas to go to. So I remember I got home that day and I ended up getting transferred a bunch of money to basically go and book my flight. So I ended up sitting on my laptop, booking my flight in my kitchen. And I remember my dad comes up to me. My dad comes up to me saying, Bubba, what are you doing? Why are you looking at flights to Vegas? Oh, well, I got a job and I have to go to Vegas. Bubba, why do you have to go work in Vegas? What are you gonna do? Oh, I got hired for sales and my manager needs an assistant to go with. Okay, is this actually a job or is this like something you guys made up? No, it's a real job, Dad. Okay, because I don't want to hear you calling me saying that you're stuck in Vegas. You understand? Oh, no, I understand. Don't worry, Dad. This is a totally real job. Which, to be fair, my dad was worried about me. And I don't blame him for being worried because, well, when your son that's like literally 19 is about to travel to a different country. By the way, I'm in Canada if you guys did not know that. Some of you guys don't know, but I'm a Canadian. So knowing that I was going to go to a different country, especially in the country that is one of the most dangerous countries in the world, other than, those countries are, actually more dangerous. I gotta say, it was actually pretty concerning for my father. But I told him everything was gonna be fine and to trust me. And when I showed him that I got transferred money into my account for the trip, he felt more reassurance. I remember from there, I booked my flight and I ended up calling up my buddy. And I told him, yo, bro, I booked my flight to Vegas. I'm going. Wait, what? You got the Vegas trip? Yeah, she wanted me to go with her. Bubba, are you sure you should be going to Vegas for your first, job? Well, I mean, it's just Vegas. I don't see how crazy it could be. Have you ever been to Vegas? No. Okay, well, Bubba, one thing you should remember. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. And at that moment, he hangs up angrily. I have no idea why, and I actually was really confused on why he was so upset. But honestly, I started to understand more and more as days went on. Because as days went on, I remember my manager would always call me randomly at random moments, telling me to, you know, make sure she remembers certain things. It even got to a point where I had to get notes on my phone just to make sure that I didn't forget anything, because she was telling me so much about her life and stuff she had to do. Like, for example, she was going through a divorce. She had a kid to take care of. She had so much money that she had to launder, or not launder, but I guess put in other businesses and invest in. I don't know. It was a whole lot of stuff that honestly was super puzzling and all over the place. But then finally came the day of our Vegas trip. I remember we ended up meeting up at the airport and my father dropped me off. And when I got inside the airport, I remember seeing my boss there, and she was there wearing the most tightest, hottest outfit ever, while I'm wearing basically sweatpants and a sweatshirt with a hoodie on, kind of just chilling, because, you know, usually when I go and take a trip to an airport, I usually wear sweats or like a onesie of some sort. Not an actual onesie, but you know what I mean. Something comfortable on the plane. But she was wearing a full-on tight suit, and I remember she ended up like meeting up with me and said, "Oh, Bubba, here, let me see the tickets you bought." And she saw that I bought economy. At this moment, she was upset at me. I have no idea why, but she was so upset at me. She said, "Bubba, follow me. I'm not allowing this." Wait, what do you mean? I booked the flight for the same plane. Yeah, but I'm in business class. You're in economy, Bubba. Well, yeah, but that's okay. Bubba, no, we're gonna go upgrade your ticket right now. Follow me. At this moment, I got worried because I knew I could not afford getting a business flight. Honestly, she ends up going to the front desk and upgrading my ticket for me. And she paid over $2,000 just for me to upgrade my ticket. I was mind blown. I will say this, it was the first time ever when I entered inside a plane with her, and me and her were sitting in first class right beside each other. It got to the point where she even offered me a drink. I didn't know if I was actually allowed to drink at that time, because drinking age in Canada is 18 and 19. In America, it's 21. So knowing I was on the plane, literally hovering between the two, did that mean I was allowed to drink or not? I don't know. Comment down below what you guys think. But I started to worry, and I remember finally when we landed, I was pretty out of it. But as for my manager, she was as well. But me and her, we ended up getting an Uber, and we ended up heading over to the hotel that we were staying at. And this is where everything gets super awkward. I remember when we got to the hotel, she ends up going to the front desk and making sure that our rooms are ready. Remember, I said rooms, but I forgot to book the hotel. So she ended up booking it right then and there at that moment. And when we got inside the hotel room, I remember I thought there was going to be like 2 separate rooms, 2 separate beds. No, actually it was the total opposite. It was 1 room with 1 bed and a shared bathroom that was literally connected to the bedroom. Like, no joke. Like, if you're sitting on the bed, you could easily see who's sitting on the toilet. It was super weird, and I didn't know why Vegas had this, but apparently it was a romantic suite that we ended up getting. And at that moment, I was looking around and I was like, where am I sleeping? Oh, Baba, don't worry about it. You can sleep on the bed. Oh, okay. Where are you gonna sleep? On the bed, silly. We're sharing a bed? Why, do you have a problem with that? No, I don't. I just didn't expect us to share a bed. Well, it's okay. I mean, like, you know, you're 19 and you're attractive and everything's gonna be okay. At this moment, she got closer and closer to me, to the point where it was pretty clear she had other intentions with me. And let's just say that that day, she wasn't only my boss. She was also my booty call, which sounds really bad and I should not say. YouTube, don't demonetize this. I swear I'm just, you know, saying things at this point. And I meant this in the most positive, most PG way. But yeah, no, it was really awkward because, well, one thing led to another. We ended up turning on the TV, sitting beside each other. And then we ended up doing the Devil's Tango, because she apparently needed to be not wearing anything to be comfortable to sleep. Yeah, that was really awkward. Anyways, though, that ends up happening. And the next morning when we wake up, I remember I ended up getting a phone call. And I woke up to the phone and I answered it and I said, hey, like, what's going on? Bubba, it's me, yo. What's happened? Are you waking up right now? Yeah, dude, it's early. What is it? Oh, well, can you tell the manager that I need her to answer her phone? Huh? Yeah, she's right beside me. Just give me 1 sec. Wait, what? She's right beside you? At that moment, I remembered I said too much, and he started to realize that me and my manager were sleeping in the same bed. At that moment, I remember my manager gets up and she just hangs up the phone instantly. And the thing she said to me was the same thing my friend told me a while ago. Bubba, one thing you need to remember. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. And at that moment, I remember from that day on, I never said a word about what happened at Vegas. I couldn't. There was no way I was going to tell anybody I did it with my manager. I remember when I walked into my manager's office, out of nowhere, right as I walked through the door, I ended up seeing my manager doing the Devil's Tango with one of my co-workers. And the craziest part was, I was literally doing the
devil's tango with her yesterday. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name is Bubba, and welcome back to a super embarrassing but crazy story. Now, today's story all takes place back when I was in high school, and this was actually my grade 12 year. I just graduated at this time, and I'm not gonna lie, I was already 18. And I will say this, in my grade 12 year, I had really no idea what I wanted to do in the future. Like, if someone went back in time and told me that I would become a creator that told crazy stories about me doing the devil's tango, I would not believe them whatsoever. But I remember in my grade 12 year, what I was doing specifically at this time was I had a job working at a restaurant. Now, I've mentioned this restaurant many times before in different stories, but this restaurant really had a lot of crazy things happen. And I know you guys are thinking it's normal for drama to happen in the workplace, but this amount of drama was over the top. Because I remember one day when I was entering into work, I remember the front of house, which is like, you know, the waitresses and the people that serve food and the bartenders, they were all like discussing something that was going on. And as they were all grouped together, I remember I decided to cut through them and say, hey, like, what's going on, you guys? Oh, wait, Bubba, you didn't hear? No, what happened? Oh, well, apparently like your kitchen manager is out on leave, and apparently there's gonna be a new manager coming in. A new manager? Yeah, apparently it's like some woman. We don't really know who it is, but apparently she's worked at a lot of different restaurants looking at her resume. So either she got fired a lot or she is one of the best restaurant managers ever. At that moment, I remember I looked at her resume and she looked like any ordinary manager. But the one thing that was really odd is that she worked at a ton, and I mean a lot of different restaurants, and I don't really know why. Going on though, I remember I was looking at her resume as I was walking into the kitchen, getting ready and everything, and one of my coworkers looks at me and says, oh, did you hear the news? Yeah, bro, I did. Can you imagine we're getting a new restaurant manager for the back of house? Yeah, I don't really know, man, but I mean, hey, we'll be fine. I'm sure she won't bug us. And then as he went with his full-on uniform into the kitchen, I remember I ended up hearing a buzz on the back door, which only staff have access to and only can be opened if another staff member opens it from the inside. And right as I walk up to the door and open it, I ended up seeing a full-on hot, attractive woman with massive cherries look at me and say, oh, hi, you must be one of the workers here, right? Yeah, hi, I'm Bubba, nice to meet you. I ended up shaking her hand, and she had a really firm grip. Like, no joke, she had pretty strong hands. And I remember she walks into the kitchen saying, okay, well, I'm your new manager, and oh, I see you're holding my resume. Are they just handing that out now? Oh, no, sorry, I was just curious, my bad. Oh, okay, it's fine, silly, don't worry about it. Just go into the kitchen, I'll introduce myself to the team later on. I remember I ended up walking to the kitchen, working right beside my friend that I was talking to earlier, and he looks at me saying, yo, who'd you just let in? Bro, I really have no idea, but I'm not complaining, is what I told him. And well, at first I wasn't complaining, but let's just say where the story goes is a lot more intense. Because I remember halfway through that shift, I remember the manager ended up walking up to all of us and saying, okay, so everyone, hi, I'm your new manager, and basically for me to get to know you guys better for the next couple weeks, I was hoping that we could all schedule meetings in my office to just discuss and see what's going on. I remember we all looked at each other and we were really confused because we were just here to work. We weren't really here for a workshop. But then right after, she ended up handing us all out a clipping board, and we all wrote our names and certain times that we were supposed to meet up with the manager. I remember me, I didn't really want to do it, but to be fair, it was a work requirement. And I remember as I was looking through the list of people and the different dates, I noticed that there was no time slot for me to actually go see her because all the days that were available were days that I weren't on shift. So I remember I just decided to not say anything and just gave the clipping board to the next person. And let's just say I ended up regretting that badly, because I remember as the next couple days went by, one by one, all my coworkers in the back of house in the kitchen would go and see my manager. But one thing I noticed was that every time a person would come out, their hair would be messy, they would be smiling for no reason, they would be giggling, and they would keep to themselves. And as it went on, I remember from 8 coworkers in the kitchen I had, we went from all communicating with each other, being a team and being good, to all of us keeping to ourselves and being quiet. And every time the manager would walk by, everyone, and I mean every single person that worked with me would just stare at her. I never really understood what was going on. But then I remember as like 2 weeks went by, I remember no one in the kitchen would speak to each other. It was getting to the point where I didn't even want to work there. And right as I basically ended my shift and was ready to leave, I remember I walked up to my locker and started getting changed. And right as I was getting changed, my manager walks up to me and says, Bubba, you're the one person I haven't spoken to yet. Did you even put your name down? No, to be honest, I've been like super busy, my bad. And also earlier when I got it, like I couldn't find a time where I was working and it was just a whole thing. Okay, well, if you want, I can come see you now. Yeah, I can see you now if you want. I remember me and her, we ended up going into her office. And when we got in there, I remember she just kept basically staring at me and she sat me down asking, so what do you enjoy about the workplace? I don't know. I just like making money and working here
here, I guess. Oh, okay, so you're in it for the money. Well, no, I also enjoy meeting people. Okay, so do you enjoy meeting me? At that moment, I was really confused because she was coming off really flirty. But then one thing led to another. I remember she made me stand up and, well, I guess you guys know where this is going because she basically leaned up her whole body against me and we did the Devil's Tango. Literally at the restaurant in the back of the workplace. I was seriously mind blown when this happened, and honestly, I didn't understand it. But right after we did the Devil's Tango, she ended up having the balls to say to me, oh, like, I think we really formed a connection and we can work really well together. Yeah, I guess we did. I remember after that, I ended up leaving the office, and as I was leaving through the door, I was buckling up my pants until one of my coworkers looked at me walking out and said, wait, bro, why are you buckling your pants? And I didn't know what to say. I didn't want to tell him I just did the Devil's Tango. So what I ended up saying was, oh, nothing. I just realized it was undue. I was just getting ready to leave, and I just walked right past him. Now, at first, this was, you know, something I thought I was special for doing with the manager. I thought she only did it with me, and that was it. But that day when I got home, I won't lie to you, I couldn't sleep. I couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. Something was just bothering me, and I guess it was just bothering me that I just did it with my manager. Like, it just really was getting into my head, and it got to the point where I decided the next day I would walk up to my manager and discuss what the hell just happened. Because me doing the Devil's Tango with my manager was nothing new, but the way she came off was so random, as if she's done it so many times before. So I remember the next day, I ended up basically going into the workplace, and I decided as I was getting ready for my shift, I would quickly stop by and see the manager. And as I walk up to the manager's door, I realized it was closed, so I decided to knock on it, but no one answered. I could clearly hear my manager in there, probably doing like an exercise of some sort, but right as I opened the door, I ended up seeing someone from the morning crew that does the prep in the kitchen was doing the Devil's Tango with my manager. At that moment, I ended up seeing this and I'm like, bro, there's no way. And my manager ends up grabbing me by my hand, pulling me in and saying, okay, Bubba, you can't say anything. You understand? I mean, like, what are you guys doing? I remember at that moment, the guy that was there was just silent, and me, I was so confused on what was going on. And I really wasn't happy about this because this is like a huge deal. And then that's when I realized she ended up pulling me outside, and we ended up standing outside talking about it, saying, Bubba, you gotta understand, like, I'm just a really active person and I like to get close to my workers. That's all. By doing the Devil's Tango. Yeah, it's like doing the entire football team. At that moment, I was so grossed out, and I literally ended up calling my head manager that used to be there before he left, and he ended up sorting things out, luckily. But all I'm gonna say is that woman was naturally disgusting. And if you guys agree, then just follow for more embarrassing stories just like this one. Peace out, guys.